Okay, this is going to be the Algebra 1 SOL practice questions 41 through 50. Let's go on to the next problem that we did. Okay, what is the function -8 for this? Okay, so what you should do, that means I'm going to put -8 in for x. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. All right, so I got -8. Arrow for x, hit execute. So when I type this in, all right, what I'm going to type in is 11 parentheses x minus 24. Okay, all right, I'm going to figure that part out first, which is that, and then I'm going to divide that by 2. Okay, so always figure out this top part first, bottom part second. And so that's why that answer, -176, is answer C. Okay. Moving on to 42. The number of complaints a company received at the end of 6 weeks is shown. What is the line of best fit? There's your key word, line, which is going to be the x, right? Okay. Now, if you look at this, that's x and that's y. Okay. And the question asks us for how many complaints should be expected by week 8. So what they gave us was 8. What they want us to find is this guy. So they want us to find the y. Okay? So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to go into menu. I'm going to go into stat. All right, I'm going to punch this in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then 225, 205, 187, 169, 147, and 130. Okay, I'm going to calculate the regression, and it's going to be x. Okay, so what I should write down is a bunch of decimals there. So I got negative, I should probably write up to 4 decimals. So y equals negative 19.0571 plus 243. 243 .8 and 3/6. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into menu. I'm going to go to graph. I'm going to delete those, and I'm going to type that in. Okay. So I got negative 19.0571x plus 243.8666. And I'm going to go ahead and hit draw. Okay. Now my calculator's all messed up, so I have to hit F3, exit draw. All right. Zoom auto. Okay, so I got that. Zoom out. Zoom out. Okay, so they want me to find y. So I want to go gsolve, calculate y. I'm putting in 8. And it tells me about 91.4 is going to be my answer. So I'm going to choose that one. Okay. Going on to the next one. 43. Determine the y value. Okay. All right. So the first one says add 3 to the x. If I add 3 there, that's good. But if I add 3 to that, -3 plus 3 is 0. So that one was no good. So that's why that one's out. Okay. Then it says subtract 3 from the x value. Okay. All right. So the first one, if I subtract 3 from that, that would be -9, which would make that no good. So that's not good. Okay. Now the next one says divide the x value by 3 and then add 1. All right. So -6 divided by 3 would be -2. Add 1 would be -1. So that didn't work. So that's not it. Okay. This one is add 3 to the x. I'm sorry, divide 3 by x, or x by 3. -2, subtract 1, -3. Okay, that worked. All right, -3 divided by 3 is -1. Subtract 1 is -2. And if you check all those are going to work. Okay. All right, which relation is a function? Okay, here's how you figure that out. Here's how it's not a function. X's repeat repeat. Okay, if you see that situation, it's no. So if I look at this one, because of this and this, that's going to be no. Okay, because of this and this, it's going to be no. All right. This one, because I have multiple x's here, so like for instance, that coordinate is like 2, 2. That coordinate is like 2, -2. Those repeat, so that's why that's no. This one, they're all different. All the x values are different. Okay, that's -4, 3, -2, 3, 4, 3, and 2, -3. As you can see, all the x values are different, so that's why it's yes. So anytime they repeat, it's no. Okay? All right. It says a manager of a company recorded the number of hours employee worked during the following years. Week 1, the mean was 35 with a standard deviation of 1.5. Week 2, 40 hours with a standard deviation of 2. The manager concluded there was more variation on the number of hours worked for week 2 than 1. Okay? All right. There was more variation. Valid because week 2 mean was greater. No, that's not it. The variation has everything to do with this. Okay? All right, valid because the standard deviation for week 2 was greater than the standard deviation for week 1. That's the answer. Okay? This has to do with variation. All right, going on. 46, which graph appears to be not a function? Once again, if the x's repeat, okay? Or there's something called the vertical line test, that if it passes through 2 points, then it's going to be no. Okay? All right, so that's going to be no. This would be yes. This would be yes. And this would be yes. So, since it was not a function, okay, since it was not a function, all right, that's what I would do. Since it passes through more than once, that answer is going to be no. Okay, 47. Based on a quadratic model, okay, so quadratic means x squared, okay, what is the approximate height at 3 seconds? So 3 seconds would be here. We need to find this, which would be my y, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do, very similar to the other problem, I'm going to the menu, I'm going to stat, I'm going to type this stuff in. 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, okay, 200, 195, 185, 165, 135, 100. All right, I want to calc, reg, x squared, okay? So I'm going to write down 4 decimals for each of these. So it's going to be y equals -16.4285 x squared. Okay, the next one's going to be 1.0714 x. The last one's going to be 199, okay, plus 199, 0.6428. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type that in. Go into graph. All right, so I'm going to type that in, -16.4285 x squared plus 1.0714 x plus 199.6428. I'm going to draw it, okay? All right, and so what I want to calculate is what's it going to be at 3? So G solve, all right, I want to calculate the y at x value of 3. And I get 55 is about my answer. 55, so that's why that one's right there. Okay? It's 47. 48, which that contains the zeros. Okay? All right? So zeros are solutions. I get those from equal. Okay? So go into menu, equal, polynomial, degree 2. Now, this represents the number in front of x squared, which would be 9. Okay? There is no number for x, because b represents x, so that's 0. Then that's -16. Okay? So 9, 0, -16, because there is no x. If I solve, I get 4/3 and negative 4/3. 4/3 and negative 4/3, which is going to be that answer right there. Okay? Okay, the statistical information is given. Okay, so this formula is z x minus mean. Okay, this is your standard deviation, mean, the item, the z-score. Okay, so they tell us the mean is 18.1. The z-score is the z-score for 13 is negative 1.71. So here's what that's going to look like: negative 1.71. All right, the mean was 18.1. My standard deviation is here. Let's call that S. All right, the item is going to be 13. All right. So what I would do to solve this one, okay? All right, pretty simple. All right, I'm going to cross multiply. Now, I'm going to subtract that up top because those are two numbers. So I'm going to go into run. 13 minus 18.1 is negative 5.1. To solve for that, I divide by negative 1.7. S equals 3. And that's why that's going to be my answer. Okay? And the last problem here, what are the x and y intercepts of this function? Okay, so what we're going to do is graph. We're going to go to graph. We're going to graph that. Okay, so I go to menu. I go to graph. I'm going to delete that. I type in negative 4x plus 2. Okay? Draw. Okay? I'm going to fix my graph. F3, F3, exit, draw. Okay? Now, x-intercept, y-intercept. Now, that word for us is root. Okay? That's root. So G solve root, which is F1, tells me the x-intercept is 0.5. Okay? So this one has to be my answer, because that one, these are not. Okay? And to find the y-intercept, G solve y-intercept is 0.2. And that's why that is my answer. Okay? So what you should do is take the practice test you have, go through some of these, and this should help you pass the test when you take it later this week.